Greetings to everyone, friends. Today we have a lot of important news that will affect the future of every Ukrainian, regardless of whether you are in Ukraine or abroad. We will now go through everything in detail. Watch the video until the end, support it with your likes, comments, and maybe even subscriptions. Thank you to each of you. First of all, Member of Parliament Venislavsky wrote that the Rada is working on tough decisions regarding draft dodgers. We don't know exactly which decisions he is talking about. The question remains open. Are draft dodgers only those who don't have money and power, or does it also include those who are exempted? Who has any deferments from mobilization? Who, through their connections or money, has received protection from, let's say, participating in the armed forces of Ukraine? We don't know, but such statements are made. People are scared, and then they ask how can they leave Ukraine in droves? Thank you. That's an interesting question, right? That's right. Reuters published a very, thank you, high-profile article. None of the 11 young men who signed a contract this year, ages 18 to 24, are fighting anymore. They took, as I understand it, 11 individual stories. These are those same infamous contracts. We remember the Ministry of Defense who made those cringeworthy promotional videos on this topic. You could get 6 pairs of shoes or buy 500 kilograms of something. What happened to those guys? According to what Reuters writes, out of 11 young men, 4 were wounded, 3 went missing, 1 got sick, 2 joined the armed forces, and 1 committed suicide. That's the statistics. We see that, first of all, people have stopped talking about these contracts. No one mentions them anymore. And secondly, there are no statistics about, as they say, the survival rate of these guys. It's unclear. But we see that in the current reality, these contracts and this 1 million hryvnias are simply nothing. It's a deception. There's no other way to put it. And I think that's exactly why these contracts haven't gained any popularity. Because people don't want to, they're not ready to go and get injured or go missing, most likely to die. And all this is for the sake of just 1 million hryvnias. I think those who can leave Ukraine now will be better off leaving and looking for a better life abroad. And over there, 1 million hryvnias isn't really that much money at all. Then the note of power started to come in. A survey by InfoSapiens states that 86.7% of Ukrainians believe that Russia will attack Ukraine again after a short pause if the front is frozen. And people here have split into 2 camps. Some say we must fight until we reach the 1991 borders. No peace until Russia collapses, because Russia will attack again in a few years. It will use these 3 years to prepare and attack again, and Ukraine won't be able to defend itself anymore. The second group says that the war needs to be ended, and these 3 years should be used in the same way to prepare again. Maybe join NATO, maybe join the European Union, maybe at least somehow fight corruption. And that's the story. At the same time, almost 52% of respondents said they would take part in protests if Ukraine makes unacceptable compromises during negotiations. That's a very interesting thing. I don't know if they want to go to protests now. Maybe to protest against that populist state budget that was adopted today for 2026. Maybe to protest against corruption, against illegal mobilization, forced mobilization by the TCC employees. Probably nobody wants to. And in general, what I can say is that all these polls conducted inside Ukraine by some Ukrainian companies like Kyiv, International Institute of Sociology, OTSIM, InfoSapiens, and so on, are just ordinary commissioned work, mostly aimed at the authorities. I can't call it anything else. Next, the People's Deputy from Servant of the People made an important statement. Tretyakova discussed how the President's office affects voting in the Verkhovna Rada. It's a very, very interesting thing. Tretyakova noted that if all legislative initiatives were pre-approved in the office of the President of Ukraine, the president would not impose so many vetoes and would not refuse to sign some of the adopted laws. In her opinion, this is evidence of the limited influence of Bankova on shaping the agenda. Today, from the vote on the state budget, we basically already understood all of this. And by the way, we will also talk about the budget, but in the second half of this video. If everything had been coordinated with the president's office, then accordingly, everything would have been signed and everything. And yes, everything would have been done. If that's not the case, then there is no influence either. That's the story we have. If the Verkhovna Rada doesn't vote for absolutely everything the president says or votes for something separately, it means that the president's office has no influence. But let's be honest, first of all, who is Tretyakova? It's absolutely unclear. She is, well, some kind of no-name, just a button pusher who most likely also mindlessly voted for the 2026 budget today. That's first of all, and secondly, most likely, she also voted in July for the elimination of the independence of National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine and Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office. And by the way, after that incident, it became absolutely clear to me personally when they voted for one thing one week and something completely different the next week, it became obvious that the Verkhovna Rada has no independence whatsoever. They just do what they're told from above. If it's not what is needed or what they're told from above, they get punished. It's just that all of this happens behind the scenes. This is also clear in the law on liquidating National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine and Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, as well as in the 2026 state budget law. So that's exactly what we're getting to. Now, there is clear evidence for all partners that there will be no internal reasons for instability in Ukraine, said Zelensky. He thanked the members of parliament who voted for the budget for the 26th year. According to him, this is an important signal of Ukraine's resilience and a guarantee of stable financial support for the next year. Zelensky emphasized that the main priorities remain defense, social programs, and recovery after Russian strikes. Is that so? I don't think so. Why exactly? Ukrainian Member of Parliament Yaroslav Zhelezniak very clearly pointed out several points that for some reason were not removed. They claim there's an optimization, but none exists. First of all, the budgets, if I'm not mistaken, are 2 billion hryvnias for the telethon, which they promised just yesterday to remove, to cancel it. By the way, this is the media company that produces it. Yes, the telethon is produced by a company linked to both Mindich and Yermak. That's why they kept it. So spending 2 billion on the telethon is okay. Next is the national cashback, which is already dying out, which serves absolutely no purpose, just wasting money left and right. Then the distribution of 1,000 hryvnias each, if I'm not mistaken. Already either 14 or 15 billion hryvnias have been given out, this 1,000 from Zelensky. Next, expenses for strategic communications amount to 4 billion hryvnias a year, then for roads and many other programs. At the same time, there is a huge hole in the budget for funding military salaries, as well as for maintaining the army in general, which absolutely no one knows about. No one is going to cover even these populist points, let alone how and where to cover them. And let's remember that the International Monetary Fund has already questioned the appropriateness of Ukraine's use of financial resources, and now they're making their own suggestions. Not the International Monetary Fund. Yes, they propose raising taxes for private entrepreneurs, and this will mean an increase in prices for absolutely all goods and services sold in Ukraine. And those new taxes for private entrepreneurs are so strict and so serious that if they are implemented as proposed, they will be the highest taxes for private entrepreneurs in all of Europe, in the entire European Union. And in Europe, let me remind you, taxes are already quite high, but ours will be even higher, as they say. However, we see that the Verkhovna Rada has voted for this budget. They were gathering them there, gathering for 3 to 4 days, couldn't manage to collect enough votes, then probably promised something to someone somewhere, and then everything was voted through. At the same time, Europe also doesn't really want to anymore to help Ukraine. We'll talk about this in the next video. So subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. There are a lot of interesting news there, both about funding for Ukraine and about the general attitude towards a possible end to the war and towards the Ukrainian army, double standards and everything else. So in the next video, we'll stir up a bit of controversy. Thank you all, friends, for your attention. I wish you a great day. See you next time.